You are listening to Viewpoints from PlaceCloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
Braddock, Pennsylvania sits along the Monongahela River about 10 miles southeast of downtown Pittsburgh. It is a small borough with an outsized place in the history of American industry. In the late 19th century, Andrew Carnegie built the Edgar Thompson Steelworks there, opening it in 1875. It was the first steel mill in the United States built specifically to use the Bessemer process on a large scale, and it helped turn the Pittsburgh region into one of the great steel-producing centers of the world. The mill still operates today under U.S. Steel, making Braddock unusual among former mill towns. The giant industrial complex that once defined the place never entirely disappeared. For decades, Braddock was crowded and busy, shaped by steel, railroads, smoke, and immigration. Workers came from across Europe and from the American South, including many black families who moved north during the Great Migration in search of industrial jobs. The borough's population reached roughly 20,000 in the first half of the 20th century, and after the Second World War, it was still a substantial working-class community. Then, the long decline of American steel hit the Monongahela Valley hard. Mechanization reduced the number of jobs even where mills survived, and broader deindustrialization hollowed out the local economy. By the early 21st century, Braddock had lost most of its residents. Its population fell to a little over 2,000, leaving behind vacant lots, empty buildings, and entire stretches of streets where the built landscape felt larger than the community that remained. That setting is what brought national attention when John Fetterman became mayor in 2005. He was young, physically imposing, and unusually direct about what Braddock had become. Rather than trying to pretend the town was still intact in the old sense, he talked openly about abandonment, shrinkage, and the strange possibilities created by so much empty land. He and a circle of supporters presented Braddock not as a fully recovered town, but as a place where people could experiment. Artists were offered inexpensive or free studio and loft space in old buildings. Urban agriculture was encouraged on vacant parcels. Community projects appeared in the gaps left by demolition and depopulation. Some of the ideas were practical, some symbolic, and some deliberately provocative. A former church became a community center and creative hub through Fetterman's nonprofit Braddock Redux. Gardens took root on former house lots. Outdoor bread ovens and shared food projects appeared as small acts of neighborhood life in a borough more often described through loss. A handful of newcomers, including artists and other so-called post-urban homesteaders from places such as Brooklyn, were drawn by low real estate prices and by the chance to help shape a place that had room, literally and socially, for reinvention. Still, the story of Braddock is not a simple tale of revival. The Edgar Thompson plant remains a dominant presence, with blast furnaces, rail lines, and industrial traffic pressing right up against residential streets. It is one of the oldest continuously operating steel mills in the country, and its continued operation ties Braddock to the same industry that built and scarred it. The town's redevelopment efforts unfolded beside persistent poverty, environmental burdens, and the reality that many residents had stayed through the worst years not because the town was fashionable, but because it was home. Braddock has also carried deep historical weight beyond steel. In 1755, the area was near the site of the Battle of the Monongahela, where British General Edward Braddock was mortally wounded during the French and Indian War. The borough later took its name from him. In a very different era, Braddock became home to one of the most remarkable church interiors in the region, St. Michael's, designed by the architect Titus de Bobula and filled with murals by Maxo Vanka in the 1930s. Those murals depict not only religious scenes, but war, labor, immigration, suffering, and injustice. They are among the most powerful works of social art in the United States, and they fit Braddock precisely. Sacred imagery set against the realities of industrial life. So Braddock is not just an old steel town that declined, and not just a backdrop for an unconventional redevelopment campaign. It is a place where the history of American industry remains visible in active furnaces, abandoned lots, immigrant churches, and experiments in survival. Few towns show so clearly what happens after the age of mass industrial employment ends, and few continue to carry both ruin and production at the same time. In Braddock, the past was never cleared away. It remains in the street grid, in the mill's glow, and in the effort to build something livable in the shadow of what once made the town thrive.